Okay, good evening. Welcome everyone that could make it today. Welcome to all of you to this next session on the Diamond Sutra. So we will continue from where we stopped yesterday. I'm very happy that you came. As I said yesterday in the evening when we finished, I feel this is tremendously auspicious to be able to do this, to share this together. I think it's truly very important, very crucial sutra teaching, manifestation of the Buddha's wisdom that is of the utmost importance, especially for anyone truly interested in this path. So I'm very happy that you're here. So yesterday we finished on chapter 8. So let's get into chapter 9. So as we finished yesterday, on chapter 8, the Buddha was sort of starting to point to Subhuti, the real meaning of the Buddha, the real meaning of the Dharma, beyond all kinds of extremes. Because we understood that actually until now, Subhuti's understanding was not really correct. Subhuti was clinging too much to no appearance, clinging to no perception, clinging to emptiness. Subhuti's realization of emptiness was of course correct, but his total realization, his total understanding was not. So we finished that yesterday on chapter 8, where the Buddha starts to point out where does the Buddha really arise from. And it's not from emptiness, it is from wisdom. It is from the entirety of the ultimate nature of doesness, which is not exactly the same point. But this is perhaps not enough, you see? Perhaps not enough. So now in chapter 9, we are going to continue, or chapter 9 and 10 in fact, I think all the way to 13. The Buddha will continue because we are going to witness something quite extraordinary in this sutra, actually, because it is in this sutra that Subhuti is guided from his view as a arhat, from his view of emptiness as a arhat. It is guided to the understanding, to the view of the Mahayana, to the view of the Bodhisattva. This happens here. This is quite extraordinary, and we will witness it, like replay, So now we started that journey already in the last 2 chapters. So now the Buddha takes things one step further. So the name of chapter 9 is called "The One Appearance is Beyond Appearances." So in order to really make this point, now the Buddha has to explain to Subhuti what is exactly not really totally correct with his understanding, what is not totally correct with his view. So in order to do that, the Buddha will start to question and to examine what Subhuti understands in terms of the levels of the different stages of realization. And of course, because Subhuti is an arhat, and he has known and he has walked that path, he is very familiar with that. So at this point the Buddha says, so we start now with the beginning of chapter 9. So now this is the Buddha speaking. Subhuti, what do you think? Can a Shotapanna have the thought, have I entered the fruition of Shotapanna? So now I have to explain what this means. So Shotapanna is the first stage of realization on the path of Arhat. is in English is sometimes translated as stream enterer. But maybe another alternative translation, which is very important. These things are important to understand because they point to certain aspects of wisdom. You see, I'll explain. So what means this? Another way to translate Shrotapana is the one who has entered the river. That's another way to put it. The one who has entered the river. Like sometimes to make a more elegant translation, it's translated as stream enterer or stream goer. But it's like this, the one who has entered the river. So which river has he entered? Well, which stream has he, what does this actually mean? So they are called, so this stage of attainment on the path, on the spiritual path of the Buddha Dharma, it means what? It means someone who has discovered no self. So the emptiness of self of the individual. And they have realized the truth of impermanence. So they have entered the river of impermanence. This is the meaning. So when they say the one that has entered the river or has entered the stream, which stream? The stream of impermanence. The stream of interdependent origination. That's the stream they've entered because they've let go of that self. So what is the difference between someone who has attained that spiritual attainment of the river enterer and the normal person? Because this is what is important to understand. So there are 5 points that the stream enterer, or this one who has entered the stream, has realized. They have realized, or better yet, they have overcome the wrong belief in a self, in the existence of self. They have understood that. They have also understood the difference between, the extreme positions of nihilism or like non-existence, complete non-existence of anything, and substantial existence. They've also understood that. They've also overcome the obstacle of not believing in cause and effect, because these are two things that sometimes people have, that cause and effect are not really existing. They've understood that's not completely true. So they've overcome the wrong belief that there is no cause and effect. They have also overcome the belief in opinions. I think it was yesterday or the day before, I don't remember, when we talked about the wholesome, the meaning of the roots of virtue. It was yesterday, I think, and I told you what were these roots of virtue that are listed in the Abhidharma, if you remember. But in the same source, in the Abhidharma, it is also listed what are the roots of unvirtue. Okay, we didn't talk about those because they were not relevant there. But so one of those is actually the belief in opinions. People believe in opinions. They think opinions are something important. Opinions are something relevant. And many people, of course, especially these days, everybody, opinions are very important. Everybody has to have opinions about everything. What's your opinion? There's even TV shows, talk shows, that are just dedicated to people talking about opinions. But in the Abhidharma, one of the unwholesome roots of unvirtue is actually the belief in opinions. Why? Because an opinion is not truth. An opinion is not truth. I have an opinion when I don't know something. An opinion is different from a fact. Fact versus opinion. That's why it's an opinion. An opinion is actually just a way to say, I don't know. I don't know. It's the same. Opinion is unknowingness, is not knowing, is delusion. So when we really hold on to opinions as being truth, as being something really valuable, this is an unwholesome root. So stream and people that have entered this level of spiritual path, they no longer have any belief, any kind of clinging at all to opinions. It's completely gone. The other thing, the other thing that they have abandoned is any kind of inclination, any kind of belief that asceticism or kind of self-punishment, renunciation, all this kind of ascetic kind of approach leads to anything. They've also abandoned that. So these are the 5 things that the person who has entered the stream has abandoned. They have realized this. However, even though they have realized or they have become free from these 5 things, they are still not free from conceptual projections, and they are not free from clashes. Which means what? Which means that even though they don't produce more karma because they have realized the emptiness of self, so they don't produce new karma, but they are still subject, they still suffer. Suffer, maybe not the right word. They still experience the results of their past karma. So the ripenings of their past karma are still manifesting and they are still experienced. So they still experience anger, desire, greed, fear, hope, pain, whatever. All these karmic results, they still manifest. So they are not free from that. So they're just not producing anymore at that point. So this is basically what happens. This is the level. This is like the first stage on the path. And even though normally this is classified as the stages of the Arhat path, of the hearer path, but generally in Buddhism we can say that practitioners will pass through this. Everyone will pass through this stage. It's like the first real point, you can say like this, is this point. So that's what the Buddha is talking here about. Okay, so let's read again. So, Subhuti, what do you think? Can a stream enterer have the thought, I have attained the fruit of stream enterer? And Subhuti said, no, world-honored one. Why? Because Shrotapana means one who has entered the flow. And yet, he has not entered anything. He has not entered forms, sounds, smells, tastes, tangible objects, or dharmas. Therefore, he is called the stream enterer. Now, what does this mean? He has not entered anything. Why? Because he has realized no self. He has realized impermanence. Because he has realized impermanence, he does not cling. Okay? That's the meaning here. He has not entered forms, he has not entered sounds, smells, tastes, tangible objects, or outer phenomena. He has not entered any of those. Though his mind is no longer clinging to any of those. There's no grasping, you see. There's no clinging because he's realized the impermanence, the ever-changing, moment to moment, change. What's this? What's this moment to moment? Moment to moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. What's this? This is the flow. This is the stream. Okay? This is the stream of impermanence. This is the stream of interdependence. And that is what this level refers to. But this stream of impermanence is not a thing. It is not something you can enter. You cannot enter into it because you are never outside of it. You are never outside of this stream. They have just realized it. And they have let go of grasping. So that's why it says here, so he has not entered forms, sounds, smells, tastes. And because he has not entered any of these things, that's why he's called a stream enterer. So he cannot say he has entered anything at all. So that's the first kind of approach. The Buddha again is leading Subhuti. We will see, where at this point. So here we understand this first level of realization as well, which is important to understand what it means. Then the Buddha continues. Subhuti, what do you think? Can a Sakdragamin have the thought, have I attained the fruition? So this is now, I should just translate for you because it's easier. This is now this is the next stage. So this is the second spiritual attainment. And the second spiritual attainment is called the once returner, one returner. So that's the meaning of this word. Sakradamin, sorry, it's difficult to say, is the once returner. So Subhuti, what do you think? Can a once returner have the thought, I have attained the fruition of once returner? Subhuti said, no, world-honored one. Why? Because the once returner means the one who returns once more. But actually, he does not return. Therefore, he is called a once returner. So what is a once returner? So a once returner is the next step. So before we looked at the stream enter. So now, as they continue their spiritual practice, they start to get rid of different levels of conceptual thinking, deluded thoughts. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here. There's a lot of detail that could be explained here, but maybe another time. Just very, very simply put, there's different levels, we can say like this, of subtlety, of conceptual thought. From the most gross kind of dualistic conceptual thinking to more subtle levels of conceptual grasping and conceptual projection. So at this point, the practitioner has sort of overcome, has realized, has dissolved, has purified a big part of all this kind of gross conceptual thinking. So most of these levels of conceptual thinking are now cut off, but not all of them. There's still some level of conceptual thinking happening at this point. And because they still have some grasping to some kind of conceptual ideas, then they still have to take birth again. They are not yet free from taking birth again in this, desire realm, into this kind of world. So that's why they're called the once returner. They have to return one more time. However, because they have already realized emptiness of self, they have already realized the stream of impermanence. From their point of view, who is there to return? Who is there to return? And are they returning to what? To what are they returning to? What is there outside of the stream? What is there outside of the stream of impermanence, of the stream of the momentary moment to moment appearance of interdependence? What is there outside of that? So who is there to return to what? So this is what Subhuti is saying here. Because Subhuti understands this. Because remember, I told you yesterday, Subhuti is an arhat. So Subhuti has reached the level of arhat. So he understands this very well. He has been through this himself, through this journey, so to speak. So Subhuti here can speak from personal experience. So from their point of view, they don't experience that they are returning to anything at all. So now the Buddha continues to the next point, to the next one. Subhuti, what do you think? Can an anagamin, so now anagamin, that's the next level. Anagamin means the no returner. So anagamin is the one who does not return. So the no returner. The next level. So can the non-returner have the thought, I have attained the fruition of no returner? Can they think like this? And Subhuti said, no, world-honored one. And why? Because the no returner means the one who does not return. But actually, he is without not returning. Therefore, he is called a no returner. So, the non-returner, again, without going into too much detail, so the non-returner now, they have purified some more levels of conceptual thinking. So they don't have to return. They don't have to take birth again. into the desire realm, but they still have some kind of obscuration. So they will actually experience a level of existence of some sort in the third or the fourth, my memory fails me, in one of the last levels of the form realm, of the dhyana levels of the form realm. So they will abide in, I think it's the third dhyana of the form realm. They will abide in that form realm for some time, where they will continue in samadhi, in meditation, for a long time. So what does this mean here? Can the no-returner have the thought, I have attained the fruition of no-returner? And Subhuti answers, no, of course not. He cannot. Because he is without not returning. What does it mean, he is without not returning? It means that from the point of view of the no-returner, they cannot find anything. They cannot find any phenomena that is called not returning. Just like the previous one could not find a phenomena of returning, these ones cannot find the phenomena of not returning. That does not exist. It is not something that is a truly existent state. It is not a truly existent phenomena. It is not present in their mind. Not returning is not present for them. So what is the Buddha trying to get to here? Why this line of questioning? See, what the Buddha is trying to get to here is that this idea of attaining goals, this goal, like this objective-driven goal mentality of I am going to attain something. So of course now he's speaking to Subhuti, who is an Arhat. So he's using the example of the 4 stages of the Arhat. But the point is always the same. What is there to attain? What is there to attain? Because from the point of view of the one who has attained it, nothing was attained. Because if the emptiness of self is realized, if the emptiness of the Dharma is realized, then who attained what? So this language, this view of there's something to attain, this is misconception. This is misconception. This is part of the delusion of this conceptualization that the mind does, that creates an idea of a truly existing state, the truly existing state of a Buddha, the truly existing state of enlightenment, the truly existing state of nirvana, the truly existing state of an arhat or a non-returner or whatever it is. See, the mind makes this picture. The mind makes a picture. Yes, that's a Buddha. That's a Buddha. Or that's that level of realization. That's nirvana. I'm going to attain that. I am going to attain Buddhahood. Yeah? And that's what the Buddha is, that's what the Buddha is getting at here. He's saying, no, you cannot say this. You cannot say this. Because the one who attains discovers that it's illusory, it is empty of self-existence, and that state that is trying to attain, it is also empty of being a substantial state. And yet, Subhuti is an arhat. Okay. We keep dancing. You see, we keep dancing. We cannot land anywhere here. So the next piece goes like this. Subhuti, what do you think? Can an arhat have the thought, I have attained the way of the arhat? So now we're going to the last level. So this is Subhuti's level now. Now he's talking straight to Subhuti because that's where Subhuti is. Subhuti, what do you think? Can an arhat have the thought, I have attained the way of the arhat? Subhuti said, no, world ordered one. Why? Actually, there is no phenomena, there is no dharma, there is no phenomena called arhat. World honored one, if an arhat had the thought, I have attained the way of the arhat, that would be an attachment to self, others, living beings, and to a life. There we go. Now we get to the point that the Buddha starts to make here. You see? So Subhuti now himself says, Subhuti as an arhat, okay? So Subhuti as an arhat says, no, the arhat cannot say that he has attained the level of arhat, because from the point of view of the arhat, so from his point of view as the arhat, from the point of view of the arhat, there is nothing to be found. There is no phenomena that is called an arhat. And furthermore, if the arhat had the thought, I have attained the way of the arhat, then that means that there was still an I there. There was still a self. There would be a self that is perceiving and clinging to the idea, I have attained the level of arhat. So then they would not be an arhat. And yet and yet Subhuti is there as an arhat, talking to the Buddha. Maybe you start to taste a little bit what this sutra has been about all along from the beginning. Again, as I said yesterday, what is true? The tree in the garden. What is false? The tree in the garden. This is what we're trying to get to here. This is what we're trying to get to here. Any kind of clinging, any kind of idea about this is it or this is not it, is just that. It's an idea. If I have a thought, I have attained this, then there's an I that is having a thought, I have attained something. And both the I and the thought and the something are seen as real. If I have the thought, I have not attained nothing, then nothing and I are still real. So if you try to establish something as existing, or if you try to establish something as not existing, it's the same problem. Same problem. You cannot affirm or deny. If you do, you fall away from the path of the Buddha. That's what this sutra is trying to show. This is what this sutra is trying to teach. So there's another sutra later. So there's another sutra, another prajnaparamita sutra, a later sutra, where Subhuti now is a bit wiser. Subhuti already got it in this later sutra. So in this later sutra, the Subhuti speaks like this, about this. He says, about arhats, he says, for despite the cessation of their suffering, because they are incapable of further rebirth, arhats are unable to aspire to full enlightenment. I'll repeat this. This is Subhuti is now speaking, after he has a bit more wizened up later. He says, for despite the cessation of their rebirth, of their suffering, despite the cessation of their suffering, so even though arhats have stopped their suffering, they are incapable of further rebirth. This is very important. They are incapable of further rebirth. You see, sentient beings, normal sentient beings, they are incapable of not being reborn, okay? A sentient being is incapable of not being reborn. They have no choice. They will be reborn. Arhats are on the other side. They are incapable of being reborn because they are kind of hooked up on the non-dharma, on the unborn. So because of that, they are unable to aspire to full enlightenment. So this is Subhuti speaking later. So now the sutra continues. World honored one, the Buddha has said that I am the foremost in the attainment of the no strife or no struggle samadhi. And I am the foremost arhat free from desire. So the Buddha has said that in other occasions. The Buddha has said that Subhuti was the most superior of the arhats in terms of absence from desire. So there is some I forget now which sutra it is, but there's maybe the Nirvana Sutra. No, never mind, I forgot. But there's a sutra where the Buddha says that Shariputra is the foremost in wisdom of the arhats, and Subhuti is the foremost in absence of desire. So Subhuti is speaking here now, world honored one. So the Buddha has said that I am the foremost in the attainment of the no struggle samadhi, so no desire, and that I am the foremost arhat free from desire. Yet, world honored one, I do not have the thought I am an arhat free from desire. If I had the thought I have attained the way of the arhat, then the world honored one would not say, then the world honored one would not say, Subhuti is foremost of those who delight in practicing aranya. Aranya means, it's very difficult to translate. It means something like a state of non-attainment, without any struggle, without any clinging, without any grasping. So what Subhuti is saying here is, because the Buddha has said that I am the highest one, I am the highest arhat, free from desire, then if I had the thought that I am the highest one free from desire, then the Buddha could not say that I am the highest one free from desire. This may seem like just redundant speech, but it's really not. It's really not. It's really pointing to the fact that it is this I and this grasping. While there is this I grasping, then we are still not understanding. We are still not there. We are still not really on the path to wisdom. It is always about this, you see? So Subhuti here is saying, I don't have the thought that I have no desire. I have no such thought in my mind. Because, you see, from an ordinary point of view, if somebody, for example, let's say you're hungry. Let's say you're hungry. And you think like this to yourself, I'm hungry. Or I'm thirsty. You feel, I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty, you feel like this. Okay, then you pick up some water. You drink. And then you have the thought, now I'm not thirsty anymore. I am free from thirst. I am free from thirst. You see, an arhat or someone who has realized wisdom, they have no such thought. There is nothing like this occurring in their minds at all. At all. This is very important to understand. It's not just that they don't speak it. It's really not there. There is no such perception. There is no perception of someone who is free from desire. They have no such perception. And that's why the Buddha said that Subhuti is the foremost among the ones who have no desire. Even though from the point of view of Subhuti, such idea is not even there. Subhuti continues, since Subhuti actually does not practice anything, he is called Subhuti, the one who delights in practicing aranya, or non-attainment without struggle. So here the Buddha is starting to point, Subhuti hasn't really gotten it yet, and we will see that in the next two chapters. He's not really there yet. But Subhuti now starts to get the message, which is any kind of clinging to a state, any kind of clinging to a level, any kind of clinging to a result, to a goal, or to someone who attains any kind of goal, being a goal of an attainment or a goal of a non-attainment. You see, being a goal of being thirsty or a goal of being not thirsty. Being a goal of perceiving something or being the goal of not perceiving. Both of these are two sides of the same coin. Both of these are two sides of the same coin. And this is what Subhuti is now starting to kind of understand. That he cannot say, I am an arhat. Because if or think, or even have the idea, because even if just having the idea, I am an arhat, then he wouldn't be an arhat. But now that starts to dawn on him. And what is the lesson here what should we learn from this point here? We should learn that any grasping, any clinging to attainment, to attaining something, nirvana, enlightenment, Buddhahood, this or that, it is grasping at a mirage. It is grasping at a rainbow. It is chasing after a rainbow. If you're chasing after enlightenment, you're chasing after a rainbow. And that's the kind of short way to put it, basically. Because the attainment, or the awakening, it is not a phenomenon. Awakening is not a phenomenon. Awakening is not something that you can attain. It is not something that you can reach. You cannot reach it because there is no such phenomena called awakening, and there is no you to attain it. And when that's realized, then we say that you have attained awakening. This is not the land. Now you start to get, because this language of this contradiction has been used a lot in the past few chapters. And I didn't really get too much into it because it was difficult to explain at that point. But maybe now you understand the way I just explained now. Because all of this contradiction language that has been used so far in the sutra is always the same point. Because there is no because enlightenment, awakening is not a phenomenon. It is not something that you can reach. And because the I, the me, it is illusory, so there is no one to attain that. You cannot say that there is enlightenment. You cannot say that there is no enlightenment. There is no one to be enlightened. When that's realized, then you have attained enlightenment. Okay, you got it. That's the clenching here, and this is the wisdom that will prevent the bodhisattva from falling into extremes. This is the real wisdom that will prevent the bodhisattva from falling into extremes like this. Okay, next chapter. Chapter 10. It's called Adorning Pure Lands. Actually, I don't like this title. There's another another version of this sutra, or another version of the titles that I like better for this one, which is called Transforming Worlds into Pure Lands. I like that one better because it reflects more the meaning. Transforming Worlds into Pure Lands. It's 10th chapter. So, the Buddha said to Subhuti, okay, so the Buddha said to Subhuti, what do you think? Did the Tathagata obtain any Dharma when he was with burning lamp Buddha in the past? No, world-honored one. Tathagata did not actually obtain any Dharma when he was with the burning lamp Buddha. So I have to give you a bit of context here, or else you don't understand what this means. Buddha Shakyamuni here is referring. Buddha Shakyamuni here is referring to his encounter in a past life with a past Buddha. I think actually it was the first Buddha of our eon, I believe, which was called Buddha Dipankara. So burning lamp Buddha is actually the English translation for the Dipankara. Buddha Dipankara was one of the previous Buddhas. And the Buddha is referring to one of his past lives when he met Buddha Dipankara. And Buddha Dipankara was actually the one who gave prophecy to Buddha Shakyamuni about his enlightenment. So the Buddha retold his story in his past life. He was a yogi, he was a meditator, living in the mountains. And one day he went to town to make an offering to his teacher. So he gathered a lot of donations and he went back to town to make an offering to his teacher. And as he was arriving to the city, he heard that Buddha Dipankara was actually arriving also into the town. And there was a big feast being organized for Buddha Dipankara. And the streets were being ornamented with flowers and all that. And he was very happy. It's like, oh, fantastic, what an auspicious occasion now that I've come to town, that also the Buddha Dipankara is also coming here. So, and he was there, waiting for him to arrive. And then, Buddha Dipankara was walking into town. And at the time, I forget his name, Ichanka? Anyway, it doesn't matter. The name that the Buddha had in that life, anyway, it doesn't matter. So he saw that on the road, there was a big puddle of water. And he thought, this is not right, that the barefoot Buddha Dipankara has to walk through this puddle of water. So he untied his knot, because he had the long hair, he untied his knot hair, he let his hair fall, and he bowed down to the Buddha. And as he bowed down, he put his hair to the front, like this. And all his hair just laid on the puddle. So as he bowed down to Buddha Dipankara, his hair covered the water, so that Buddha could step on his hair and not get his feet wet. And Buddha Dipankara was so impressed that he kind of made him raise, looked at him and said, in so and so many lifetimes, you will attain full awakening and you will be known as Buddha Shakyamuni. So Buddha Dipankara was the first one that gave prophecy to Buddha Shakyamuni about his enlightenment. And this is actually something that not many people know, but traditionally in Mahayana Buddhism, it is considered that in order to attain full enlightenment, one needs to receive prophecy from a Buddha, or otherwise you can't. All Buddhas have received prophecy from a Buddha that they have attained full Buddha, that they will attain full Buddhahood. It's the only way. So all practitioners, all bodhisattvas, they are cultivating the path. Some will already have received prophecy in the past from a past Buddha, others not, and they might receive in the future from a future Buddha. But anyway, this is traditional way in Mahayana, the way it's taught, explained, that it needs to happen. All of them have received this kind of prophecy. So that's what the Buddha is talking about here, about this meeting with Buddha Dipankara. So he's asking to Subhuti, what do you think? When I met Buddha Dipankara and all that happened, what I just told you, did I receive some Dharma from Buddha Dipankara? And Subhuti says, no, world-honored one. Tathagata did not actually obtain any Dharma when he was with Buddha Dipankara. So what did the Buddha gain there? What was the point? Why did Buddha Dipankara make the prophecy that Buddha Shakyamuni would attain enlightenment in that future life? What was the main point that he's trying to explain here to Subhuti? he's trying to explain something about the perfection of patience. And this will be explained better, I think, in the next chapter. I'll go into more details. But what the Buddha realized, or that the yogi then, the bodhisattva at that time, what he realized in that encounter with Buddha Dipankara was what's called the patience of birthlessness. The patience of birthlessness. That means that, you see, this kind of teaching, like the teaching in this sutra, for many people, this can be terrifying. This can be very, very terrifying. The mind can be really terrified to hear. You don't really exist. Self doesn't really exist. Phenomena are empty of true existence. This can be terrifying. Phenomena are beyond birth and death. Past, present, future, they're just single time. Because the moment that Buddha Dipankara looked at that yogi, at that bodhisattva, at that time, and he told him this: in the future, you'll be Buddha Shakyamuni. At that time, right there, he got it. He understood this. He understood the birthlessness of phenomena, the illusory nature of, arising, abiding, and cessation. The illusoriness of time, if you want. And this can be quite terrifying. Just think about it, can be quite terrifying, actually. And many minds don't accept this. Many minds reject. Some completely reject. Others listen to it. But somewhere kind of inside, it's like, I really don't want to, I'm not ready for that, later, There's a kind of fear. So at that time, the Buddha attained this, the total forbearance or patience, that is the patience of birthlessness, not being afraid of the real nature. Because you think that, but everyone wants to discover their real nature. Well, not really. Maybe if they have all these kind of fantasies about what it is. Oh, nirvana, real nature, is this, is that, all these affirmations, all these phenomena, qualities that I am going to attain. I am going to attain all those wonderful things. Then we like very much. But when we understand the real meaning of this, then all of a sudden the mind goes like, whoa, what do you mean I'm not going to be there to to enjoy it, And then many minds go like, oops. So these, the patience or the capacity to not be afraid, the capacity to have no fear on understanding the true meaning of awakening, the true meaning of unborn state, the true meaning of Buddhahood. This is what the Buddha understood. This is what he understood there in that lifetime. So, so basically, just like I said, has to do with this realization that, nothing arose in the past, nothing arises in the present, and there will be nothing to arise in the future. All these phenomena, dharmas with small d, dharmas, phenomena, all these phenomena that are perceived as appearing. It appeared in the past, it appears in the present, it will appear in the future. The understanding that no, phenomena did not appear in the past, don't appear in the present, don't appear in the future. Phenomena are just a projection of the mind. They don't actually exist as that, outside of the concept. So with that kind of understanding, you see, when this kind of understanding arises in the mind, it is not the same. It is not the same as the view of the Shravak, as the view of the Arhats that the Buddha talked about in the previous chapter. And that's why the Buddha is talking about this. The Buddha is talking about this why? Because he wants to show the difference. The Buddha wants to show the difference between this view of the Arhat that clings to emptiness, that clings to no self, to non-appearance, non-perception. He wants to show the difference between that and what is the view of a bodhisattva. And that's why he's talking about this. Because when the Buddha realized that at that point, before he was a Buddha, when he realized that at that point, that phenomena don't arise in the past, present, or future, and he also gained this kind of patience, this kind of ability to really accept this fully. So at that point, immediately, all kind of thoughts, all kind of clinging to attaining or not attaining some kind of goal, objective, just dissolves. That just dissolves. But with the dissolution of that, you see, with the dissolution of any grasping to past, present, future, or goals to attain, here we are, or there he was, or there he was. And there are sentient beings. So from that comes the knowledge, the wisdom, and the compassion. The compassion of the bodhisattva. Because the bodhisattva does not... See, the arhat is fixated on a goal. The arhat, the mind of the arhat is fixated on the goal of attaining cessation. Cessation from delusion, cessation from disturbing emotions, cessation from confusion, to realize the illusory nature of phenomena. The mind of the arhat is set on that goal. And I bet, if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I bet that most of your minds are set on the same goal. Most of your minds are arhat minds, most of them. And this is why it's so important to study this sutra. Even if we don't understand everything, even if, of course, many of these things are kind of maybe far in terms of realization, but to try to start to understand this, to try to examine, to study, to reflect, to look. This goal mind, goal-oriented mind, to attain the state of cessation, to attain the state of the cessation of disturbing emotions, to attain the state of peace, emptiness, no thought, where all delusion stops, all mental projections stop, all perceiving of unreal phenomena stop. Attainment of peace, happiness. Right? I'm sure that most minds of most Buddhists that call themselves Mahayana Buddhists, they have their mind like that. This is Arhat mind. This is not Bodhisattva mind. This is the difference that the Buddha is pointing here. Because the moment that it is accepted or realized or understood, whatever, depend different levels. Because maybe first you understand, then you have to accept, then you have to really kind of bring it into your experience, and then finally there's realization. So it's like at different levels. So, but whatever. When there's this understanding or realization that nothing arises in the past, nothing arises in the present, nothing arises in the future, that we truly accept this, that there is really, that all thoughts of attaining something or not attaining something are just projections based on illusory phenomena. Once we truly come to get this, both both sides of emptiness and not and materialism, both. When we drop all that, we're still here. What I mean, it means that things don't just disappear into nothingness. And because things don't just disappear into nothingness, from that arises compassion, the compassion of a bodhisattva. The compassion, the wisdom and the compassion of a bodhisattva arises from that. This is very important, and if this needs to be really clarified profoundly, and it's not so easy to understand. So now the sutra continues. Subhuti, what do you think? Does a bodhisattva adorn Buddha lands? Or that means transforms worlds into pure lands. So does a bodhisattva transform worlds into pure lands? No, world-honored one. Why? One who transforms worlds into pure lands does not transform anything. Therefore, it is called transforming. See, now this is the same kind of double negation that I used as an example on the previous time. That's pointing to the real meaning of wisdom. Because of course, one of the things that we talk about from the point of view of bodhisattvas is this kind of function of transforming deluded appearances into pure lands for the benefit of sentient beings, for the benefit of deluded beings. To lead beings to enlightenment, to lead beings to awakening. That is the compassion of the bodhisattva. So the Buddha is asking, so when the bodhisattva transforms a world into a pure land, so does the bodhisattva do that? I mean, that's part of the point of the path of the bodhisattva, right? So what's the question about? But Subhuti answers very clearly, no, because if someone transforms a world into a pure land, then they're not transforming anything. And because they're not transforming anything, then that's called transforming. So what does that mean? It means that because they realize that the actual nature of that is already pure, it's already beyond pure and impure, because they realize that, then automatically it becomes pure without doing any purification at all or thinking of any transformation at all. Because you have to see that this has to do with the realization of non-causality, beyond cause and effect, beyond time. So when the Bodhisattva realizes this, the state of non-causation, which is beyond time, when a Bodhisattva realizes this, the pure condition, beyond time, beyond space, beyond cause, beyond effect, when that is realized in the mind of someone, the impact that has on that place where the Bodhisattva is incredible. It's an incredible impact, actually. And that impact, that really affects, this environment. That is compassion. That is the compassion of the Bodhisattva. However, from the point of view of the Bodhisattva, because they see the natural purity, there is nothing to transform. There is no impure world to transform into something pure. It is spontaneous. It is natural. No action. That is the true adornment of the Buddha lands done by the Buddhas. So of course, when we're talking about transformation or purification or Buddha lands, we're not speaking about at a material level, okay? So when Buddha Shakyamuni attained enlightenment in this world, awakening in this world, it transformed this world into a pure land. So technically speaking, actually, traditionally we say that this world is Buddha Shakyamuni's pure land. This is truth. This is really truth. This is Buddha Shakyamuni's pure land. Because the moment he attained awakening here, immediately that manifests. That is part of the awakening of a Buddha, of a Bodhisattva. But of course, this transformation into pure land is not something material. Some people may have ideas, like some books, some sutras talk about it, but this is very metaphorical, of like trees with jewels and, lakes of nectar and stuff like this. No, this transformation into pure land is at a spiritual level. It's a spiritual level. It's not at a material level. It is like a wave. It is like a shock wave, if you will. It's like a shock wave at a spiritual level, not material level. I have a small kind of quote here that reflects to this. That's from another sutra. In another sutra, the Buddha says, "Who would purify their world first, purifies their mind. As their mind becomes pure, their world becomes pure." So this is the meaning here, you see. So the one who would purify their world, if you want to basically what the Buddha is saying here is like this: if you want to purify the world, purify your mind. If you purify your mind, your world becomes pure. This is the meaning here. This is the meaning here. The moment that the mind is purified, really purified at the level of the Buddha, then automatically that place becomes like a pure land. From the Buddhist point of view, definitely becomes like a pure land. And that's why the Dharma exists. That's why the possibility of discovering Buddha nature exists in this world. Becomes a pure land. If we see the world very negatively, if we see the world full of fear, full of judgment, full of, kind of very concrete and real problems, this is not the world's problem. This is your problem. This is your view. It is not the world that's dirty. It's your eyes. Maybe to do like this. Now looks a bit more pure. When your glasses are very dirty, everything becomes a bit kind of opaque. Clean your lenses, and everything becomes clear. This is what the Buddha is saying here. This is the perfection of wisdom. So the sutra continues. Therefore, Subhuti, all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, should thus produce a pure mind which does not rely on forms, sounds, smells, tastes, tangible objects, or dharmas. He should produce a mind which does not rely on anything. This is it. This is the moment. It was exactly in this line that the sixth patriarch of Chan, Huineng, it was when he heard this line, Huineng's mind, total awakening. Just listening to this verse, he got it. Therefore, Subhuti, all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, should thus, remember I told from the first session, thus, suchness, should just be in suchness. And in suchness, but suchness is not nothingness. Okay, now let's look at the twitch here in this line. Therefore, Subhuti, all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, should thus in suchness, produce a mind. Produce means here what? Produce means a mind manifests. You're not like a stone, you're not like a rock, nothing there, not like this. There's awareness, there's wisdom. So in suchness, a mind, but which kind of mind? Which kind of mind? A mind that does not rely on forms, sounds, smells, tastes, tangible objects, or outer phenomena. A mind, you should produce a mind which does not rely on anything, meaning does not grasp to anything, does not hold to anything, does not fixate to anything. That's how a bodhisattva, mahasattva, produces great compassion. That's how it manifests total awakening. That's how it manifests a pure land. That's how it manifests supreme benefit for all sentient beings. This is the great difference between the bodhisattva and the arhat. Now the Buddha is showing to Subhuti here what is the main point, the main distinction between these two views. There is another, in other of the Prajnaparamita sutras, the Buddha says, the Tathagata is not attached to anything because his mind does not seek to rest on anything. He is not attached to the created and he is not attached to the uncreated. So the Tathagata, the mind is not clinging to anything. It does not seek anything. It does not rest on anything. It does not abide anywhere. It does not fixate on the apparent, on the created, on the arisen phenomena, but it also does not rely, it does not abide on the non-created, on the empty. It abides nowhere. It abides nowhere. It abides nowhere. That's how you should cultivate your mind. So the sutra continues. Subhuti, suppose a person had a body like Sumeru, the king of mountains, so big mountain. What do you think? Would that body be a big body? And Subhuti addressed the Buddha, very big, world-honored one. Why? The Buddha says it is not a body. Therefore, it is called a very big body. So again, the Buddha is using this kind of, to establish that the realization of the non-appearance, it is the true appearance. So another way to put it here would be that the Buddha's form, so the Buddha's form, is beyond form. So what is the point that the Buddha is trying to make here? Is that again? So because we are still trying to establish this difference between the arhat and the bodhisattva. So the arhat wants to stop. The arhat wants to stop rebirth. He wants to stop coming back. He wants to stop experiencing birth. He wants to just abide in the peace of emptiness. The bodhisattva has no such attachment. The Buddha, because it does not cling to any. It doesn't cling to either aspect of it. The bodhisattva is not afraid of samsara. The bodhisattva does not reject samsara. This is why I said, just a while ago, that if you actually understand this teaching, if you understand these chapters today, and if you look at your own mind, you can probably see that a lot of your ideas about your Buddhist path are more arhat, arhat mind, arhat attitude than bodhisattva attitude. Because most people, I don't want samsara, I want to get rid of it. This is not bodhisattva mind. Bodhisattva is not afraid of samsara, does not reject samsara. And it's not fixated on obtaining nirvana. No attainment, no no attainment and no not attainment. That is the attainment. Okay? So using the same language of this sutra, I would put it like that. That's the bodhisattva mind. Neither of them. That's the real attainment. And that's the real body of the Buddha. That's what the Buddha is trying to point here. See, the real body of the Buddha is beyond form, is beyond size. The Buddha is not attached being, having a form or having no form. The Buddha doesn't mind if he abides in a formless state or if he abides with a human body or whatever other body. It makes no difference from that point of view. There's no clinging to either of such things. So the Arhat basically wants to stop existence. The Bodhisattva attitude, he wants to, to perceive, or the way the world is perceived and experienced. It is just completely without any clinging, without any attachment, without even any idea of anything to be transformed or purified. Even that's not present. And that is the great body. This is the great body of enjoyment, the great body of merit of a Buddha. So the great body of merit of the Buddha is basically the totality of the awakened mind, the totality of the Buddha mind. Not just emptiness, you see, not just emptiness. Because the Buddha mind is not just emptiness. It's not just emptiness. And that's the real point here. Let's see, okay. I have time for one more chapter, so I'm going to do one more chapter. We finish with this one. This one is quick. So then, chapter 11. The supremacy of unconditioned blessings. Chapter 11. So the Buddha is still trying to correct Subhuti. So because we are not there yet. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's in chapter 13. I think, let me just see. Yeah, I think it's 13. 13 or 14. Yeah, 13. So I think it's in chapter 13 or 14, one of these two, that we really get to the main point, that Subhuti starts to get it. So chapter 11, sorry, I have to find it. I'm a bit lost here in my text. Where is it? Here it is, 11. Okay, so chapter 11. So the Buddha now is still trying to correct Subhuti. So we are going one step by step into this view of what is really the view of the Buddha. What is this view of the Mahayana? So one mistake or one misunderstanding that we could have at this point from everything that was taught and up to now is that because the Bodhisattva has this view of no attainment, nothing to attain, no attainment, no goal, nothing arises in the past, nothing arises in the present, nothing will arise in the future. There's no goal to attain, there's no world to transform. So because the Bodhisattva has this view, someone might have the understanding then, because of that, then there's nothing to cultivate. There's no path to cultivate. And that's what the Buddha is now going to address. And that's what the Buddha is now going to correct in this chapter 11, which is called the supremacy of unconditioned blessings. So it starts with a question, Subhuti, suppose there were as many Ganges rivers as there are grains of sand in the Ganges river. What do you think? Would the grains of sand in all those rivers be many? Subhuti said, very many, World Order 1. That many Ganges rivers alone would be uncountable. How much more so the grains of sand contains in them. Okay, so we have a lot of grains of sand. Okay, fine. So what's the point here? Subhuti, now the Buddha says, Subhuti, I am speaking truthfully. Suppose a good man or a good woman had filled with the 7 kinds of precious gems as many threefold great thousand world systems as there are grains of sand in all those rivers, and gave them as an offering. Would that person obtain many blessings? Now imagine this person offering, all these countless, offerings. How many blessings would come from that? So that's what the Buddha is asking. And the Buddha says, a lot, that would be incredible amount of blessings. The Buddha told Subhuti, if a good man or a good woman were to accept and uphold even so few as 4 lines of verse from this sutra and speak them for others, those blessings and virtues would surpass the previous blessings and virtues. So we already kind of touched upon this yesterday. There was another chapter yesterday that started to talk about this, and there will be more. The Buddha will touch upon this point several more times for a very good reason, which I will explain in more detail probably on the next session, next week. But now, here on this one. So what the Buddha is saying here, basically, is, don't think just because the Bodhisattva has realized that nothing arises in the past, nothing arises in the present, and nothing will arise in the future, and that the real attainment is no attainment, that an awakening is not a phenomenon to be attained, and the person that wants to attain it doesn't exist anyway. Just because you get all this, don't think that there's nothing to do. That's what the Buddha is saying here. And the Buddha is saying here this in 2 ways. The first way is that if we would do a lot of kind of virtuous deeds, like, this great generosity that it talks about here, this great generosity, a person would get many blessings. Yes, sure. But those would be worldly. These would be worldly results, worldly karma. Because this person would still be attached to self and other. They would be attached to good and bad. It would be like in the Arhat chapter, where it says, if I say that I am an Arhat, if I say that I am an Arhat without desire, then I am not an Arhat without desire. Because I am not an Arhat without desire, then I am an Arhat without desire. do you get it? Because it's not a thing that can be positively established. It's not a thing that exists. It's not a thing that you can define as an existing phenomena. And when the realization that that thing is not an existent phenomena appears, then that's the realization of that phenomena. That's the same point here. So if there is someone with the idea I exist and other beings exist and I'm going to give them a lot of presents and a lot of generosity and they're going to do a lot of good, this is worldly. This is karma. It will produce good karma, sure. It will produce good karma, but it will not produce enlightenment. So we talked more about that yesterday because in the last chapter the Buddha really talks about this. But now this is in a different context. So that's why the Buddha says here, to just read and uphold and understand 4 lines of this sutra, that alone is more blessing than all that, giant offering. Because awakening, it is not something that you attain through dualistic action. It is not something you attain through, cultivating actions based on self and other. It is something that it is attained through non-attainment. It is something that is attained through wisdom, through realization. That is the supreme blessing. That is the supreme merit. That is the supreme transformation into a pure land. That is the cultivation. That is the cultivation. This needs to really be understood and resolved. Because if we don't understand and resolve really what this means, how shall I say? You see, in the beginning of the path, you don't have a choice. In the beginning of the path, you don't have a choice. Why? Because, of course, you are a self. You are a self, you are a subjective self. You are acting from the position of a subjective self that is doing things. You don't have a choice. There's no choice. What else could you do? There's no choice. But even that being the case, the practitioner in this case needs to try to understand what means these teachings. And that's the real cultivation. That's what this Buddha is saying here. This is the real cultivation. When you try to understand these teachings, this is the blessing. For example, in Hatha Yoga, when I say, when we sit in Hatha Yoga meditation, no grasping, no accepting, no rejecting, not here, not there, not in the past, not in the future, not in the present, in the state of Hatha Yoga meditation. That is cultivation. Because if you get that, then you're right there. Then you're right there. Nothing arises in the past, nothing arises in the present, nothing will arise in the future. No attainment, nothing to attain. You're right there. You're right there. That's cultivation. But you're not building anything. You're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. You're just cultivating this wisdom that will recognize directly, see directly the meaning of this sutra. Because the meaning of this sutra, the ultimate meaning of this sutra, is the Buddha mind. This sutra itself is the real Buddha mind, actually. So to try to understand this meaning, and that's why I also said in the beginning on the first chapter, I told you, for many practitioners, this sutra is really this is the only sutra, actually. There have been many masters in history that this is the only sutra. They dedicate their lives to reading, studying, practicing, applying this. And in truth, that's really true. There's nothing else that you need than what's here, because this is the Buddha directly here. But of course, obviously it's not so easy, but the trying of understanding, applying, resolving this in our minds, this is the cultivation. So the Buddha is telling here, Subhuti, okay, but still you need to cultivate. You need to cultivate blessings. You need to cultivate virtue. And how do you cultivate virtue? By understanding the meaning of this sutra. That's how you cultivate virtue. That's the real virtue. That's why the title of this chapter is the importance of uncontaminated virtue. Why is it uncontaminated virtue? Because it is virtue that is not contaminated by self and other, by duality, by fixation, by judgment. We need to really look at our minds and see, how are we approaching the Dharma? We need to educate ourselves. We don't need to be scholars. There's no need for that. But we do need to understand this This is not philosophy. This is not kind of to philosophize. This is pointing. Pointing at what? Pointing at what? Just this. Just this. Just this. Just this. Just this. The Buddha is always pointing at that. Beyond extremes. Beyond extremes. The seeing of the emptiness of an appearance is the true appearance. When we cling to the emptiness, when we cling to the emptiness of the appearance, we fall. We fall into that path that the Buddha was correcting. When we understand the emptiness of the appearance and understand that that emptiness of the appearance is the true appearance, and that emptiness of the appearance is also empty of emptiness. That is the view of the Buddha. That is the view that the Buddha is trying to point here. That transcends all limitations, transcends all barriers. So when I say sometimes to you that this is not samsara, many people, because they don't really understand, they say this is samsara. No, this is not samsara. Samsara is here. Samsara is here. Here. Samsara is in your eyes, in your mind, in your view. That's where samsara is. That's all. You see, that's all. You won't find awakening outside of this. Where would you find it? Awakening is not outside of this. It is just this. But this without, only that changes. Only that changes. When we take up the veils of all this conceptual mind, when all these veils of the conceptual mind are gone, then you see. And in that seeing, nothing's gone. Nothing's gone. Only thing is gone is ignorance. Ignorance is gone. Clinging to false appearances is gone. Like I was saying yesterday, ordinary mind looks at a car and thinks that's a car. That's really a car. Someone who has realized looks at that appearance and sees no car. But even though they see no car, they can still walk up to the car, turn on the key and drive. Like this. No extremes. This is the view that the Buddha is trying to point in this sutra. Beyond all limitations. This is the kind of view that, if you try to really work it out, your brain will just, short circuit at some point. And this is good. If you try to work this out, your brain will kind of short circuit. And in that moment of short circuit, you'll just be here, here, here. That's it. No glasses. Nothing. Just here. No clinging to one side, no clinging to another side. Buddha mind. Buddha mind. Just this is Buddha mind. Right now. Right here. Buddha mind. You won't find it anywhere else. That's what the Buddha is saying. In your own mind. This is cultivation. This is cultivation. This is the real cultivation of the Bodhisattva path. Manifests in this way. And by manifesting in this way, when there's a being that awakens, that truly awakens, it's like a shockwave. Immediately, becomes pure land. It's like a spiritual shockwave. maybe, you know, the rocks and the mountains and, you know, and the buildings, maybe those don't change. But at a spiritual level, there's a huge, profound shockwave. The whole world changes, actually, at a spiritual level. And this is the real point. This is the real point. And everyone trying to understand the Buddhist teaching should understand this. Not to get deviated, not to get sidetracked on dead ends that lead nowhere, that have nothing to do with the Buddhist teaching. Okay, so this completes chapter 11 of the Diamond Sutra. Do you have any questions? So next, I'll put on the event schedule. So next Wednesday, same time, same place. I will continue with this sutra.